talk to Cuba. They're starting to look. They need help.
US President Donald Trump has announced that Washington is starting to talk to Cuba, even as his administration steps up pressure on Havana by cutting off key oil supplies. The move comes after Trump halted Venezuelan oil shipments and imposed tariffs on countries supplying Cuba, including Mexico.
Starting to talk to Cuba. We're starting to look. They need help on a humanitarian basis. And we're starting to talk to Cuba. Don't forget, a lot of people that live in our country were treated very badly by Cuba. And we want them to be, they all voted for me, and we want them to be treated well. We'd like to be able to have them go back to home to their country, which they haven't seen their family, their country for many, many decades. So we'll work that. I'll be able to work that.
Trump's focus on Cuba intensified after the early January capture of Venezuela's former president, Nicolas Maduro, a key supplier of oil to Havana. With Venezuelan shipments cut, Cuba has become increasingly dependent on Mexican oil, now threatened by US tariffs.
We'll work a deal. I think we're going to work a deal with Cuba. I think, we'll be kind. We have a situation that's very bad for Cuba. They have no money, they have no oil.
Mexico has expressed concern over the US tariffs and the potential for a humanitarian crisis in Cuba. President Claudia Sheinbaum has instructed her Foreign Affairs Secretary to pursue diplomatic options to maintain support for Havana, while avoiding punitive tariffs from Washington.
Of course, we do not want to risk more tariffs being imposed on Mexico, but simply to seek, through diplomatic channels, a framework for dialogue and communication that prevents a serious situation for the Cuban people, who are already experiencing very difficult conditions.
Cuba's energy shortage has deepened with the reduction of Venezuelan and Mexican oil, raising fears of a humanitarian crisis. While Trump suggests negotiations could prevent a crisis, Mexico stresses the urgency of supporting the Cuban population and avoiding further hardship.
It is very important that there is no humanitarian crisis on the island. So I instructed the Secretary of Foreign Affairs to discuss this with the U.S. government, or have them, the U.S., send the oil. This is a matter of supporting the Cuban people. Of course, we do not want to risk more tariffs being imposed on Mexico.
As US-Cuba talks begin, the world watches whether diplomatic engagement will offset the pressure of energy cuts. With Havana squeezed economically and Mexico navigating US sanctions, the coming weeks may determine Cuba's ability to secure oil and stave off a humanitarian crisis.
Well, it doesn't have to be a humanitarian crisis. I think they probably would come to us and want to make a deal. So Cuba would be free again.